months before.
class.
Child,
That's who I'm gonna pick.
the kids are getting immunized at a rate that's unprecedented, and yet we have this idea that's become rampant in the West that there's something ultimately corrupt about the patriarchal tyranny, and that it has to be dismantled right down to its core. And a lot of that's being taught by the activist disciplines in universities.
Listening to
and
Jordan
I just don't
Peterson
get it. It's not acceptable.
on the Joe Rogan podcast.
So they see these hierarchies, and their proposal to level everything off and to take away the insane power at the very top is equality of outcome. This unproven in terms of it's never been done successfully to a utopian.
Right. Well, and I also don't even think you can do it in principle, because if you accept the proposition, the propositions I laid out, which is you have to pursue things of value, and if you pursue things in a value in a social space, so you do it cooperatively and competitively, you do it with other people, then you're going to produce differential outcome because people will be differently good at it.
Yes.
It's like, okay, you don't believe that? It's like, okay, do you listen to random selections of music online? Or do you do what everyone else does? You go for the 1/10 of 1% of songwriters, and you only listen to them. You only listen to you only read the productions of 1/10 of 1% of writers. You only listen to podcasts of 1/10 of 1% of podcasts.
I got that jujitsu in that
right, when you watch
box.
sports on TV, you only watch the athletic contributions of 1/10 of 1% of athletes. So, like, where's the equality exactly? Where's that in your life? You people who are pushing for equality of outcome, you manifest that in anything you do. You don't. You're unbelievably selective, just like everyone else. And the reason you're selective is because there are things that are happening that need to happen or that are entertaining and interesting. And you want the best in all of those realms. That's how it works. And there is a best. That's the other thing that's so painful. And that actually is painful. You know, here's a problem of dispossession. A real problem. One way to not do very well in any hierarchy is to have a low IQ. And so IQ is normally distributed. And if you have an IQ of less than 85, it's hard for you to read well enough to follow instructions. That's about 10% of the population. It might even be higher than that. Okay, so given that lack, how are you going to compete? And the answer is, you're not. Because low IQ is a good predictor of poverty. Now, they spiral because if you're cognitively, if you're less cognitively gifted, then, and you have children, they're going to be in a less enriched environment. These things spiral, but you still have the essential problem. That's the essential problem of the dispossessed. It's like hierarchies are complex tools to attain necessary goals, but they dispossess them. What do we do with the people that they dispossess? The answer is, we don't know. So we have to talk about it constantly to figure out how to solve it, because it's an ongoing problem that transforms, and that's the reason that political dialogue is necessary. And then the danger is that the political dialogue will polarize into the radical left. No hierarchies whatsoever, or the radical right. Our hierarchy is 100% right at all costs. So those are we have the eternal problem, and those are the two goals that we have to negotiate.
It's interesting because the accusation has always been that what the left is trying to do with this equality of outcome thing is sort of an infantilization of the populace, right? And the best example of that is sports.
Yes.
If you look at sports, clearly the best people
Step
win,
into
right?
my
The fastest runners
web.
win the race. The people that have the best strategy win the game. The that's a weird word, infantilization, I never get it right, but of that is what we do with children, where we get participation trophies and everyone wins. You know, when my daughter was 3 years old, she was in soccer, and they didn't teach scoring, but everyone knew. Everyone knew these kids scored, and they didn't. At the end of the game, they didn't announce a winner. There was
you can't have a soccer game without keeping score. It's not a soccer game anymore. It's something else.
But the score was kept.
Of course.
It just wasn't discussed.
Of course.
It was the strangest thing. But this is to treat these little kids because they couldn't handle it. You know, she cried when the other team scored. Like it feels bad when they score, so it feels good when you score. It's very difficult to say that to a 3-year-old.
Right.
So Is she going to run hills? Is she going to practice drills so that she feels that good feeling more? And then there's a point where that becomes too far. There's a point where you become an obsessive over-winner, right? And this is the people that want to crush their enemies. Then you become Conan the Barbarian. This is the far end of it, and this is what the left is terrified of, right?
Yeah.
The idea of the left is the demure, the soft, the people that are kinder and gentler. The idea of the right is the conqueror. The people that, you know, they work hard, play hard, go kick ass, go America, that kind of shit. And so these are the type of people that are going to be crueler. They're going to do what it takes to win. The people that you would consider that would like equality of outcome, the people that are trying to slow that down. Does this make sense?
Yes, absolutely, and I think that's how it lays itself out temperamentally.
Psychologically.
Yes.
This is the motivation for all.
Yes, and it's, well, the radical left is compassion gone mad, although it's also envy. Let's not forget about that.
Envy.
Well, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, one reason to stand up for the dispossessed is because you're empathetic. And empathy is not an automatic good. This is something we make a big mistake. We think, well, I'm feeling sorry for you, therefore I'm good. It's like, no, I might be feeling too sorry for you. I might not be demanding enough of you. So, and that's the terrible devouring mother, you know, from a psychoanalytic perspective.
Yes.
Oh, everything you do, dear, is okay. It's like, no, it's not.
Right.
So one of the things that Jean Piaget, the developmental psychologist, he was very interested in figuring out a way out of this, and it's very much relevant to your concept. You're talking about athletics. Okay, so imagine this, because this is also something that points the way to a proper morality, which was actually something that Jean Piaget was very concerned about. He wanted to reconcile the distinction between religion and science. That's actually what drove him. Even though he was, people don't know that, he was arguably the world's greatest developmental psychologist. So here's the idea. You know how you tell your kid to be a good sport? You say, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, that's how you play the game. Okay, so I've been unpacking that in my lectures because it's really, really complicated. It's like, you tell your kid that, and they look at you and they think, well, what do you mean by that? Aren't I supposed to try to win? It's a soccer game, you're supposed to win. And you say, oh yeah, you're supposed to win, but it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it matters how you play the game. You know that that's right, but you don't know how to explain it to your kid. You say, well, you want to be a good sport. Okay, so imagine this. This is how it works. And this is crucially important. So, first of all,
damn, that really, really sucks.
Life is not a game. Even a game is not a game. Because a game is, most of the time, a game is the beginning of a series of games. So let's say that you're on a soccer team. Well, there's winning the game, but the game isn't the issue. The game is the whole series of games. So maybe the game is winning the championship. And winning the championship and winning a game are not the same thing. And the reason for that is, well, maybe if you want to win a game, the best thing to do is to let your star player
God damn.
But if you want to win a championship, maybe the best thing is for your star player to do everything he or she possibly can to develop all the other team members. That's a different strategy, and the reason it's different is because it integrates across time. Okay, so I'll tell you a quick story. So when my kid was playing hockey when he was about 12 or so, he was in the championship game, just at a local arena, you know, and it was really fun to watch. The teams were pretty equal, which is something that you want, so that everybody can expand their skills while they're playing. And it was like 5 seconds to the end of the game, and the other team made a breakaway and came down. The guy came down the ice and scored. It was a beautiful goal. It was 4-3, and that was the end of it, right? And on my kid's team, there was the kid who was the star, and he was a pretty good hockey player. He came off the ice, and he was very annoyed about what had happened. He smashed his stick on the cement and was complaining about the refereeing and acting as if he'd been robbed. And his father came up, and instead of saying, "Get your act together, kid, that's no way to display yourself after a loss," he said, "Oh yeah, man, you were robbed, that the referees didn't ref right, and you played the best, and you should have won." And I thought, you absolute son of a bitch, you're ruining your son. And then the question is why? Because his son was the star and was trying to win. Why was he ruining his son? Well, you're trying to train your son not to win the game. You're trying to train your son to win the championship, and so that's a series of games. But then life isn't the championship. Life is a whole bunch of championships. It's a whole sequence of them. And so what you're actually trying to train your son to do is to be a contender in the entire series. And the way you do that is by helping him develop his character. And the character is actually the strategy that would enable him to win the largest number of games across the largest possible span of time. And one way you do that if you're a kid is like, well, what do you want to do with your kid? You don't want to teach him to win. You want to teach him to play well with others. And that's to be reciprocal. So that means to try to win, but also to pay attention to developing the other people around him, and not to put winning the game above everything at all times. So then he's fun to play with. And this is absolutely crucial. You can help your kid become fun to play with between the ages of 2 and the age of 4. If your kid is fun to play with, then what happens? Kids line up to play with him, and adults line up to teach him. And if kids line up to play with him, then he'll have friends his whole life, and he'll be socialized, and he'll be invited to many games, some of which he'll win, all of which he'll be able to participate in. And if he's fun to play with, then adults will teach him things, and then he wins at life. And so when you say to your kid, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it matters how you play the game, what you're saying is, don't forget, kid, that what you're trying to do here is to do well at life. And you need to practice the strategies that enable you to do well at life while you're in any specific game. And you never want to compromise your ability to do well at life for the sake of winning a single game. And there's a deep ethic in that, and it's the ethic of reciprocity in games. Part of the reason that we're so obsessed with sports is because we like to see that dramatized, like the person we really admire as an athlete isn't only the person who wins. We don't like the narcissistic winners. They're winners, and that's a plus. But if they're narcissistic, they're not good team players, they're only out for themselves, then we think, well, you're a winner in the narrow sense, but your character is suspect. You're no role model, even though you're a winner. And it's because we're looking for something deeper. We're looking for that, the manifestation of character that allows you to win across the set of possible games. And that's a real thing. That's a real ethic. It's a fundamental ethic.
I think what you're pointing out that's very important is we're searching for the person who's got it all nailed. Someone who tries their hardest but is also honest enough about the circumstances to not cry foul when it's gone the other person's way.
Yeah, well,
body kick, look at that. Just missed with the leg kick. Inside leg kick lands.
Muay Thai battle.
Blocks the shot.
Oh, he tagged him. He hurt him. Head kick.
He's rocked.
I got head kick.
This fight is dangerous until it's being stopped. Side kick.
You going?
How about that shin?
Oh my God, he got me. Wow.
That's it. That's it.
Wow, that dude got me. It's pretty good.
A huge roundhouse kick for the knockout. Yeah, Joe, that one is going to be hard to top when it comes to handing out performance bonuses late in the night. A huge kick for the knockout victory, and he couldn't have caught him much more flush. Full force, full extension, and you knew if he connected with here.
Caught me real early. Jesus.
in my book, Rule 4 is, this is 12.
One more.
Excuse me.
Put one more on.
This is from 12 Rules for Life. Rule 4 is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Yes.
Because you need to have a hierarchy of improvement. You need to be aiming for something, and that means you're going to be lesser than people who've already attained along that dimension.
Yes.
And that can give rise to envy. So the question is, who should you defeat in the final analysis? And the answer is, you should defeat your former self. You should be constantly trying to do that. And you're the right control for yourself too, because you're the one who's had all your advantages and disadvantages. And so if you want to compete fairly with someone, then you should be competing with you. And it is the case, and this is what we were talking about too with regards to the self-improvement of the fighter, is, well, if you're improving yourself, then what you are doing is competing with your lesser self. And then you might also ask, well, what is that lesser self? And that lesser self would be resentful and bitter and aggressive and vengeance-seeking and all of those things that go along with having a negative moral character. And those are things that interfere with your ability to progress as you move forward through life. So it's very necessary to understand that this is why, I've been stressing this idea of personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is to compete with yourself, is to be slightly better than yourself the next day, and it's better in some way that you can actually manage it. That's humility. It's right. Like, well, I'm a flawed person. I've got all my problems. Could I be as good as person X? It's like not the right question. The right question is, could you be slightly better tomorrow than your currently flawed self? And the answer to that is, if you have enough humility to set the bar properly low, then you can be better tomorrow than you are today. Because what you also have to do is you have to say, well, here's all my flaws and my insufficiencies, and the best that someone that flawed and insufficient could do to improve and actually do it is this. And that's not worth going out in the street and celebrating with placards. It's like, well, this is why I tell people to clean their room. It's not going to brag to someone that you did that. But someone as insufficient as you might be able to manage it. And that means you actually are on the path of self-improvement, and you're transcending your former self. You might say, well, what's the right way of being in the world, if there is such a thing? And it's not acting according to a set of rules. It's attempting continually to transcend the flawed thing that you currently are. And what's so interesting about that is that the meaning in life is to be found in that pursuit. So I've been laying that out in these discussions too, because it's saying, well, the fundamental issue is that life is tragic and difficult, very tragic and difficult for everyone. And it's also tainted by malevolence, because no matter how things are tragic and difficult, but there's always some stupid thing that you could do or someone else could do that could make it even worse than it has to be. So that's life. And you need an antidote to that, because that can embitter constant contact with that. Just the tragedy, but the tragedy combined with betrayal and malevolence, that makes it even worse, especially if it's self-induced. Okay, so you need something to set against that so you don't get bitter and resentful. But what do you set against that? Doing something worthwhile, by your own definition, say. You need some reason to get the hell out of bed on a terrible day because you've got something good to do. But what's the best thing you could do? Transcend your current wretched and miserable self. There's meaning to be found in that, and that's a meaning that's associated with responsibility. One of the things that I've been trying to lay out clearly is that life is hard. It's tainted by malevolence and betrayal. That can make you bitter. You need a meaning to offset. Where's the meaning to be found? Not in rights, not in impulsive pleasure, but in responsibility. You take responsibility for yourself, so you take care of yourself. If you're good at it, you have some excess left over to take care of your damn family. If you're good at both of those, then you have some excess left over to take care of your community. Those are heavy burdens. You pick up the burdens and find that's meaningful. The best way to pick up the burden is to continually improve yourself. And that's where the meaning is to be found. And so that meaning is in the continual self-transcendence. That's letting your old self die and the new self be reborn. Did you watch When We Were Kings? Ellie and Frazier? God, that's amazing. Right at the end of it, so Ellie defeats Frazier, basically by letting him defeat himself, right? Because Frazier is angry, he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he doesn't conduct the fight properly. So he exhausts himself chasing Ellie, and Ellie has basically just trained himself to take the damn blows, right? And to wear Frazier out, that's his plan. Then right at the end of the movie, he knocks Frazier down, and it's pretty much the end of the fight. But Frazier sort of struggles to his feet, and he's just getting up off the mat, and Ellie's got his hand pulled back to just nail him because he's completely laid open. And he puts his glove down and turns around. That's the end of the fight. And Frazier said, and this is true as far as I know, that fight tamed him. Like Frazier had a big chip on his shoulder. He was a kind of a dreadful guy up till that fight. And afterwards, he was affable and he was civilized. Ellie civilized him. And so, but that gesture that Ellie made was that great gesture, because he could have flattened him, right? And he had every reason to, man. He got taken apart, lead two punches like mad in that fight. And then in the final analysis, when he had Frazier down, struggling to his feet, he just let him go. Nobility of character, right? Something impressive to him. So,
Why are you defining people when you're saying this? Why are you saying you're miserable, wretched lives? Because there's a lot of people that don't have miserable, wretched lives that also just want to improve. Like, why does it have to be the worst case scenario in order to?
Because it has to work. It has to work. The theory has to work in the worst case scenario.
Okay.
That's why.
So using the worst case scenario as an example.
Because
Do you think that perhaps may alienate someone who doesn't have the worst case scenario?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. Because it depends on how much time you have to outline the ideas. But because even if things are going pretty well for you now, there's going to be a time in the future where things are rough. You're going to be ill. Family members are going to be ill. The dream is going to fall apart. You're going to be uncertain about your employment status. Like the flood is coming, right? The apocalypse is coming. It's always the case in life, and you have to be prepared for it. And the question is how to prepare for it. And the answer to that is to find a way of being that works even under the direst of circumstances. That's the issue. And so you outline, and I am pessimistic about this in my approach in some sense, because when I'm talking to my audiences, the same thing happens when I'm meeting people in life. I'm laying out the worst case scenario. That's sort of like hell. It's things are going really badly for you, and there's just chance associated with that sometimes. And you and the people around you are doing stupid things to make it worse. It's like, okay, what have you got under those circumstances? You've got the possibility to slowly raise yourself out of the mire. You've got the possibility to do just what the fighter does when he's defeated, which is to say, well, regardless of the circumstances that might have led to my defeat, like even if there were errors on the part of the referee, this is no time to whine about it. This is a time to take stock of what I did wrong so that I can hold it into the future. And that's the right attitude. In the Old Testament, one of the things that's really interesting about the Old Testament stories is in the Old Testament, the Jews keep getting walloped by God. It's like they struggle up and make an empire, and then they just get walloped. And then it's all crushed, and they're out of it for generations. And then they struggle back up and make an empire.
I've been kicking his legs.
Demolished again, and it happens over and over and over. And the attitude of the Old Testament Hebrews is, we must have made a mistake. It's never to shake their fist at the sky and curse fate. It's never that. The presupposition is, if things aren't working out, it's my fault. And that's a hell of a presupposition. And you might say, well, of course, that underestimates the degree to which there's systemic oppression, etc., and the vagaries of fate. It's like,
giving this guy a fight
it's not the point. The point is, your best strategic position is, how am I insufficient and how can I rectify that? That's what you've got. And the thing is,
oh
you are
my God, how did
insufficient.
he get my legs so
And you could
times?
rectify it. Both of those are within your grasp. If you aim low, one of the things
Why do
you
you see that? That's what I think you keep saying. Aim low. Have a low enough ball. Why do you mean?
well, let's say you've got a kid and you want the kid to improve. You don't set the bar so high that it's impossible for them to attain it. You take a look at the kid and you think, okay, this kid's got this range of skill. Here's a challenge we can throw at him or her that exceeds their current level of skill, but gives them a reasonable probability of success. And so, like I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek to some degree, it's like, but I'm doing it as an aid to humility. It's like, well, I don't know how to start improving my life. Someone might say that. And I would say, well, you're not aiming low enough. There's something you could do that you are regarding as trivial, that you could do, that you would do, that would result in an actual improvement. But it's not a big enough improvement for you, so you won't lower yourself enough to take the opportunity.
Incremental steps.
Yes, and
So this is also what is achieved through exercise. It's one of the most important.
well, what do you do when you go and lift weights? You don't go, like if you haven't bench pressed before, you don't put 400 pounds on the damn bar and drop the bar through your skull. You think, look, when I started working out when I was a kid, I was weighed about 130 pounds and I was 6 foot 1. I was a thin kid. I smoked a lot. I wasn't in good shape. I wasn't in good physical shape. And I went to the gym and it was bloody embarrassing.
This is
People
hard.
told me to help me with the goddamn weights. Here's how you're supposed to use this. It was humiliating. And maybe I was